So you guys asked for it, and today is the day. You might remember a few videos ago I asked you about continuing on with the Tech Time series and getting on to some of the products that we've got sitting backlogged, and you guys overwhelmingly voted for the underwater ROVs. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a look at one of those. You remember we've got two of them actually. We've got the new PowerVision Power Ray. That one came in as well. So we're going to be testing that. And the one we're doing today is actually the FiFish P3. So we received both of these a little while ago. So what I'm going to do is take you back to when we first received them, starting with the FiFish P3. And I've got a lot of testing and dives with this one in so far, because we have had it for a while, but of course I had to put everything on hold because once we signed up for the rally, it immediately became distractive with getting the boat ready and among other things. So from here I'm going to take you back to day one when I first received the FiFish and go with you through all of the subsequent dives that we did with it and tell you about what we learned along each step of the way, because there's definitely a learning curve, and the best way for you guys to learn how to use one of these devices, for those of you that are going to decide to actually purchase one of these devices, is to learn from our mistakes so you don't have to repeat them yourself. Makes sense, right? So I'll have my summation at the end of the video, so stick around and I'll see you then.
Complete. Check.
Okay. There we go. This, my friends, is the brand new underwater ROV by FiFish, model P3. 4K camera, all stabilizers, LED lighting on the front, and she's got some weight to her and some power. But the three main components of this system are the underwater ROV itself. This is the tether cord. So this is what connects the remote, which is this guy right here. So we put our phone in here and it has a wireless connection to the remote, and the remote has a wired connection directly to the drone. So the drone is going to be swimming around, and we have a 600-foot cable here. So this is good for 200 meters, and the drone itself is rated to up to 100 meters or just over 300 feet of depth. So that's going to be amazing. I don't know how deep we're going to get it here. We're going to just take it for a first test and see how it goes, but that's going to be a lot of fun. So basically we just unravel this tether cord as we feed the drone out, give it more room as we need it. And it's going to control just like any other drone from the remote right here. And it's going to have forward and reverse, left and right, and then ascend or descend. Wrong, but more on that later. So those are the main controls on it. So it'll do this laterally, it'll go up and down, and it'll go forward and reverse. So those are the three main controls we're going to try out and see what kind of results we can get with it. The camera will record in several different formats, but we're going to leave it set, I think, in 4K and just see what the best resolution is that we can come up with. And it'll film, I believe, at 30 frames a second. So that's where we're going to start with our tests. So, time to go diving. So the place we're going to take you for our first test of the new ROV is a small island off the southwest corner of QYSEA called Klein QYSEA. And the water here is so sparkling clear, it's absolutely the perfect place to test the new ROV. Okay, so we got everything connected. The app is running. First thing we had to do was connect the phone to the Wi-Fi of the FiFish. So that hooked up no problem. And then we connect the app to the FiFish. So we got all that linked up. I've got video now. I don't think you're going to be able to see here because I can barely see, but hopefully have video. So we're good to go. We're going to launch it. First I'm going to push record and make sure it's recording. I'm going to leave all settings on autofocus right now because I can't really tell. I can't see the screen very well. We're in really bright sunlight, so let's see. Okay, it's recording. 14-15 seconds. So now we're just going to launch it. Oh, before we do, I'm going to give it one little unlock test. Okay. Engines are working. There we go. Come back, baby. And this was our first lesson in what not to do, which ended up being not trying to run it from the dinghy. It was impossible in direct sunlight. Even with a high brightness display on an iPhone X, you couldn't see anything. So I just puttered around the dinghy blind a little bit trying to get used to the controls, but ultimately we decided we needed to go back to the boat where we could at least be under the bimini and see the screen. The other thing that gave me difficulty right from the start was the fact that the controls were the exact opposite of what I'd been used to with 25 years of flying remote control devices. Everything made for North America has the elevation control on the left stick and the forward and reverse control on the right stick. But when these devices are made for overseas, they come in, it's either mode 1 or mode 3, I'm not sure, but it's the reverse of what I would expect. So of course I'm trying to make it go forward and it goes up. I'm trying to make it go up and it goes forward. And after talking to the factory about it, I understand that it's just a software issue, but it needs reprogramming in new firmware. So that is something they're still working on, but haven't developed yet. So for now, I just have to keep getting used to the fact that everything's opposite of what I would expect. I don't know, let's first test. I guess we'll figure it out as we go, but that was pretty cool. But that is a really steep drop-off. The only other issue we had with the original firmware that came with the device was there was a disconnect in the record feature between the controller and the P3. What that means is we would press record on the app on the iPhone and it would start recording on the iPhone, but it wasn't sending the message to the P3 to start recording inside the device. So unfortunately, the only thing I have to show you from our first test is just the footage we downloaded from my iPhone, which is still a good example. It's only 720p, but it'll give you an idea what we were looking at and the capabilities of even just going and inspecting the coral reef growing on our hull. Of course, it did turn out to be pretty handy to go down and check out the mooring that we were anchored to, so that was kind of cool. But I think my favorite thing was when we put it in the water after dark and turned the lights on and all the sea life came out. Unfortunately, we neglected to push record. We were just booting it around the boat, so the only footage we have is just what we filmed up close of the iPhone, but I can tell you it was really cool, and that's something I'm looking forward to doing again.
See the fishes? Oh. Yeah, you see them in the video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of them. For the next test of the P3, I decided to take it out on a scuba diving expedition with our rally members. This one turned into a much bigger challenge than I had first imagined. Okay, so what's the dive site we're going to today?
It's called Hamra. We call it Point Remora.
Okay.
As a couple of months ago, a diver was diving there and a remora stuck to him. And since then we call it Point Remora. So the dive site has sandy bits at the reef, and I know the spots where they have like nurse sharks.
So the place you moor the boat is in fairly calm water, or it's going to be still open?
Well, depending on the conditions, because of the form of the bay, will be more or less in the lee side of the waves. So a little bit of the coast we can hide a bit from the bigger waves. So it's fairly calm over there.
All right, perfect. Thanks, man.
Oh, if only plans went according to plan.
Just pulled in here, have a look around. The dive site we were planning on going to, they had to call that because, as often happens, sometimes the sea does not agree. So waves are a little bit rolly and rough out here, and I guess going around the bend into the bay where the dive site was going to be a little bit dangerous, a little bit too much roll potential. So they decided to stop here and have a look at this other alternate site. So we're just going to see what it's like now. Guys are getting ready to jump in the water.
So as the divers started getting all geared up and ready to disembark the boat, I started preparing the ROV. Last diver jumped in the water, and then the captain helped me get the ROV ready to launch, and we put it in the water, and of course what else could happen but contrary wind, waves, current, and boat movement, and the ROV immediately got sucked under the boat and wrapped the tether around the propeller. I mean, it had to happen. What else could you possibly expect, right? Luckily, a very brave lady from the rally saw what happened and immediately yelled out, "No problem, I got it!" And within about 30 seconds, she had it all untangled and running free. I wish I could remember her name, but whoever you were, thank you. So with that, we already graduated our first lesson on this dive, which would be, make sure you launch the ROV far enough away from the boat with somebody standing by the controls at the ready so they can take it away from the boat as fast as possible so it doesn't get sucked under the boat. Mucho importante. Write that one down. Now let's go diving and see what this thing can do. So here we're already at about 50 feet, approaching 60, and the bottom's about another 10 to 15 feet. The divers are just off my left, but I haven't been able to locate them yet. I'm still looking for the bubbles. But of course I found some coral and some cool fish, so that served as a distraction, and off we go. If you look close at the divers here, you'll see their bubbles go almost straight up the side of the wall. This is a steep descent. I don't even know what depth we're at now here, but it drops off fast. This is Thais, and Thais is the nice girl from Turtle and Ray Productions that accompanies on the dive to photograph the rally members. She was even nice enough to send me one of the pictures she took of the ROV. How cool is that? So if you're planning to be in QYSEA and want to do some diving, I've left some links for Turtle and Ray Productions and Epsilon Dive Center in the description for the video. So if you look them up, be sure and tell them Captain Rick says hi. But now with the dive coming to an end, it's time to get back to the boat. So hopefully we can avoid getting the ROV tangled on the boat again. Phew, much better.
We're already up at higher. Yeah. Because I asked, I said, how long underwater? Because I can't see that on my watch. Well, you can see it afterwards, but not at the time. And I think that's maybe I have to see.
Trying to see if it's you or if it's her.
So how do I check?
That's her. Suzanne. Yeah.
For one last test of the ROV, we're going to drop it in the water in the anchorage here and go have a look at the anchor itself, because that's a primary use, I think, for a device like this on a sailboat. It's awesome to be able to just put something in the water instead of having to put a swimmer in danger by going to swim on the anchor in a busy anchorage. And of course, that's where we are right now. You can see there's lots of boats around us, so the best idea is to test the ROV and go see how well the anchor's set. So we got it right here and gonna light her up. Alright, so we've got our spool set up. We're just about to plug that into the remote. The iPhone is on. We hold the power button down again. Wait for it to fire up. There we go. It's going to go through its startup sequence. Now, we need to go into our settings. And of course, yes, into Wi-Fi. And there it is, FiFish RC. So we select that. Yes, it's going to turn off the hotspot. That's fine. And that should be connected, and now we go back to our app. FiFish and connect. Connected to the remote and connected to the device. Okay, it's connected. Go dive. It's telling us our status, 67% storage capacity available, and battery's 98%, so go dive. Okay, so you can see our display is on, it's showing the water. If I move the FiFish around, the display changes with it, just like so. And I'm going to hit the record button. And there we go, it's acknowledging that it's recording now. It's counting 3 seconds, 4. So let's throw her in the water. And hit the unlock button. Okay. So that's our up and down. And our left and right. And our forward and reverse. And there she goes.
So I think you could see I did have some fun with this device. I mean, it's a very cool device. It did present some unusual challenges that I wasn't expecting also, mostly from a controllability point of view. And I can't say that it's the device's fault, it's mostly just getting your head wrapped around the fact that your main controls are reversed on this controller. I mean, I've been doing aerial drones for a long time, so I'm used to mode 2, which of course has elevation here and forward reverse here, but here you've got elevation here and forward reverse over here. So that takes some getting used to. The control is very nice. It's very ergonomically designed to just sit right in your hands very comfortably. All the controls are ready at the thumbs. It's designed to accommodate any size of smartphone. You just push a button back here and it'll open up and allow anything in there. And I think it opens up to just under 8 inches, so it'll accommodate even most iPads and most tablets anyway, so no problems there. It does have your 3 main controls are your power on off, your engine lock button, so you push this one when you want to shut the motors off or turn them on, so you leave them off whenever you're bringing it in or out of the water, and then you just unlock it as soon as you're ready to start the engines and go below. It has an auto lock feature as well, which is kind of like an autopilot. You just push that if you just want to let it sit there for a bit and not have it move around, and it will lock itself in position much like a drone in a hover. So same thing right there, you can turn that on and off anytime you want. Your 2 controls for recording video and taking pictures are right here, and I started using these ones out of habit after the first time, when you remember we tried to use the one from the smartphone but it wasn't connecting to the device and actually telling it to record, whereas if you do push the button from here, this is turning it on from the device and then it confirms on the smartphone. So I just found that a little bit more safe, so we stuck to using that after that. It does have 2 modes for fast and slow speed, kind of like a sport mode. That's this switch right here. So if you are just in the proximity of some coral and you want to take some nice slow pictures going around or back and forth and don't want it jittering around too much, you put it in slow mode. If you're just dropping it and you want to get down fast and you want to get over to where your divers are or whatever, you put it into the fast mode, and that pretty much doubles to triples the speed of the device. As far as the specifications of the device itself, the P3 has a very impressive camera actually for its size. It's got a full 1-inch Sony CMOS sensor in there. It's a fixed aperture of 2.8, 20 megapixels. The LED lighting, I believe each light is about 2,000 lumens, so 4,000 lumens overall. They could beef that up a little bit. I mean, the one thing it does have is battery power. This thing is about 6 kilograms, and I believe most of that is probably in batteries. But with all of that battery power available, I mean, the FiFish will fly underwater for up to 4.5 hours. And I'm not sure if that's with the lights on full intensity, because they do have 8 levels of brightness on the LEDs, which is a nice feature as well. You can dim them down or make them as bright as you want. So the lens on it is fixed focus as well, but it does have a macro option, which is nice. So if you're up close to the coral and want to get a really, really nice crisp view of what's right in front of the device, you just hit the macro option. It's integrated right on the app. As far as recording resolutions, it'll record in 4K Ultra HD at 25 or 30 frames per second. It'll record in 1080p at 25 or 30 frames per second, and also in 720p at 30 frames per second. It comes with 32 gigabytes pre-installed inside the device, so all the recording of the higher resolutions is done inside the device. It transmits the lower resolutions back to your iPad or iPhone, whatever you happen to be using, and it records there in 720 or 1080p, whatever you set it up at. With 32 gigabytes installed, you've got lots of time available for recording, especially with battery capacity of almost 4 hours. That's why I say with that much battery capacity, you might even be able to beef up the LEDs and get more front light illumination and just sacrifice a bit more battery time, because I don't know too many people who are going to be flying this thing around for 3 hours at a time. Now, having said all that, I mean, this does have some impressive specifications. I think that you're going to see in the next 2 years these devices coming out with more stabilizers. This one has 3 motors in it, so 2 on the horizontal axis and 1 on the vertical. It's very impressive to me that they have actually designed this device and got it to a commercial market at a price point of just under $3,000 US. I mean, when I look at the first generation of drones, I think it was DJI came out with the Phantom, the first generation of Phantom, and it released at around $700, and that was like your first drone that was actually all in one, all the electronics in one housing, but it had no camera. There was no camera on it, it was just a drone. People were taking their GoPros and just take a GoPro and stick it on the bottom of the drone and fly that around, and that was their footage. And people were like, wow, holy crap, that's very impressive. Well, it was only a year later they came out with their first advanced gimbal design, and then DJI started marketing the Phantom 2 and so forth, and it just kept going from there. I think this is pretty much at the level of like the Phantom 2, just, you know, comparatively speaking in timeline. I think in another couple of years you're going to see some much more advanced features coming out on these devices, and it's going to be very impressive. But of course the cost factor's there. You're going to be into a cost factor of probably $8,000 to $10,000 with the first generation of new devices. This one is here already under $3,000, so we're a little bit away from any reasonable price point. But hey, when I started looking at aerial drones, that was 2012, and you could not get into an aerial drone with a camera on it for less than 15 to 20,000 US. And now you can buy a Phantom 4 Professional with a 4K 60 frames a second fully stabilized 3-axis gimbal for $1,500 to $1,600. I mean, that's amazing. The technology has advanced so much in just 5 to 6 years. It's unbelievable. And I think you're going to see this technology following suit as well. So for those of you that are interested in trying something like this now, I mean, it's on the market. It's here. And yes, it's a $3,000 price point, so it's not going to be for everybody. But for those of you that have that and want to have something really cool to play with around their boats, it's right here. And I did find it very useful for just checking out things around the boat. If you want to go and check out a little dive site over there, you want to check your rudder, you want to check your propeller, you want to check your anchor, anything like that, just throw this thing in the water and you don't need to have a diver in the water anymore. So that's a nice feature. That's really cool. I will say that I've had a lot of communication with the company. They've always been right there at the ready. I had any problems, questions, anything like that. They were very helpful when it came to updating firmware, etc., because there was a couple firmware upgrades that we did need to do to fix problems that we had found, and they addressed it immediately, sent new firmware, and boom, we just had the problem fixed. So very nice to deal with, and I'm sure you guys are going to find the same. But for those of you that are interested in something like this, I've put links in the text description below, so you can look down there for a link to the company's website. That's where you can find out all the exact specifications on the device. And if you use the coupon code SSLRIC in your contact with them, they will know that you came from the channel, and they've actually agreed to give a special discount just for you guys. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the review. Next video is coming soon. So I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe, and I'll see you out there. Captain Rick out.